Here we are, middle of the week, Wednesday for a hump day. Happy hump day if you're in the U.S., which I think most of our people are, unless they're in Australia. That might put them a day ahead. But even Norway and the UK, I think it would be Wednesday.
Dolbez is in.
Yeah, but I still think he's in Wednesday.
Yeah, no, he still is.
I don't think it changes the day. Australia's the only country where the day changes. So anyway, happy hump day. We're here. As usual, open panel. Feel free to come on the stream. The only really big thing in the news is that Trump ruling, and from Colorado that he can't be on the ballot. And my first reaction when I heard about it was, well, wait a minute. He wasn't convicted of insurrection. How can they determine that he led an insurrection when he hasn't even gone to trial yet? And then I started reading some of the legal opinions of people on Twitter that I follow that are lawyers, and that seems to be the big issue: is who gets to determine whether somebody committed an insurrection or not, and due process. And he's already up against 4 indictments, because my reaction was, wait a minute, the trials haven't even happened yet. He's facing 4 criminal indictments, and depending on the results of those trials, I can understand making a ruling on whether he can be on the ballot. But to do it beforehand and declare that he committed an insurrection, apparently they did do a preliminary trial at the state level where they examined the evidence, but they didn't have Trump. Like, it wasn't Trump they were trying. It was just looking at the evidence and making a determination themselves. So to me, that gives a lot of power to the courts over the individual right to due process and things like that. And there's also a standing issue where if it was an insurrection, it was at the federal level, and do the state courts or the state voters have a standing to challenge? And so there's some like legal procedural questions at play too. But my gut instinct when I heard the ruling, and keep in mind, I'm the one that keeps telling people that Trump is not going to be on the ballot anyway. I don't even want him on the ballot. So this is not me trying to rationalize Trump getting on the ballot anyway. I normally would have maybe even been happy if they had followed procedure, but something in my gut just rang wrong the minute I heard about this ruling and what it was based on. So that's what's in the news today.
Did
if
you
anybody wants to come on and talk about that?
John posted about this yesterday, actually, and he said he was quoting somebody else's.
Oh, right, and Joshua Jones responded, and I would love Joshua to come on and give his opinion.
John posted somebody else's thing. He said, in summation, the Colorado Supreme Court declared Trump should not be included in the primary ballot, but stayed their own court pending an appeal to the Supreme Court, which will inevitably happen, which will stay the ridiculous court order indefinitely. So Trump will be on the ballot, but they get to issue a judgment that will make headlines for the next few months. And if they're lucky, it will enrage people sufficiently enough to do something stupid that the media can run with it as well.
See, that there's a lot of assumptions there, and it does sound conspiracy. First of all, we don't know if Trump's going to be on the ballot if the Supreme Court ruling hasn't happened yet. And I'm very suspicious all the way around when people try to discern motives, but they get to issue it like it was like the whole purpose of this was so that they can issue a judgment to kind of cause chaos. That's a big assumption on this Viva Frei guy's part. And then Joshua Jones said how he disagreed, that it's a state rights issue. So if anybody has opinions on the court ruling and want to come on and talk about them, or anything else, really, come on down, come on up.
It is a good point, though, that if they make that judgment, though, and it's the motivation part of it sounds conspiracy theory-ish. I agree, but if you look at what actually is going to happen, though, like it gets appealed, and that appeal is going to necessarily keep getting taken up the ladder, and that process takes so long to do that the chances of
January 4th is when they set the rule. They're going to have a ruling by January 4th. They're expediting it. Yeah, they're expediting it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I mean, either way, it's because people are going to take this just like they did with Israel Palestine and weave it into whatever narrative that their emotional reason motivates them to weave it into. And so we're going to get 4 or 5 different versions of this ruling and the conspiracy behind it. Hey, Joe, I can't stand. Yeah, that was my reaction too. They did him shitty in court. Like it could have been anybody. My thought was, wait a minute, how can the state court determine that he's guilty of an insurrection? He didn't even go to trial yet, and they're already ruling that he committed insurrection. That doesn't sound like due process.
I still think that the insurrection claims are pretty shaky. Like some of the claims.
Well, first, it depends on if you even consider January 6th an insurrection or not, and I don't even know if that's been legally determined. But the indictments are not shaky. But that's not for insurrection. That's for conspiracy, and it involves Trump and many other people, and that does not seem shaky.
No, that doesn't either. It doesn't look as shaky. I still have my doubts whether they're ever going to convict him.
So even if he's guilty of that, there's question on whether he should be in the ballot. They didn't even need to pull in insurrection. But then there was that, what's his name? Eugene Debs that ran for president while he was in prison.
Yeah, no, yeah, he can. No, Trump can totally, if he just goes to jail, if they don't take him off the ballot, he can totally run from president from.
Yeah, then the American people have to decide if they want a convicted prisoner as their president or not.
But I mean, once Trump gets in, if he gets into office, if he does get elected and he's in jail, can he not pardon himself?
I don't know if you can self-pardon. That was a question that came up during his first 4 years. And I saw where Washington State already threw out the challenge to having him on the ballot, and they're as like blue and liberal as progressive as they come, and they're even not taking up the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, Joe. Insurrection, riot, protest. Who gets to determine what it officially is? And what is the process involved? Because there should be a due process to determine that. We need some kind of like final authority to settle this.
If they just put him in jail and they don't figure out a way to get him off the ballot, they're going to turn him into the biggest martyr for that side that's ever existed.
Well, they can turn him into all the martyr they want. I mean, he's already a martyr for a lot of people, but that still doesn't mean he's going to get elected. And if the people don't want a convicted felon in the White House, then
if Biden drops out and they find a better candidate, then maybe there's a chance. But Biden is so unpopular right now. I'm afraid he's going to get elected from jail.
I don't think he's going to. I'm not worried about. Of course, this is what got me the first time. I didn't think they would elect. I was not worried for a second that America would elect Donald Trump as their president. Like, never did I ever think America would want him representing them. But I still think they're not going to elect a criminal as president. Somebody like from jail. I don't know why you would like, regardless of what your grievance against Biden is. I don't know why you would turn to a convict as the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but it doesn't mean that it's going to follow that way. Like I did think Trump had a better than good chance of getting elected because of the way he handled the election, because he was getting all this attention constantly. He got so much attention. He was just trolling his way in the White House, and that's what happened. I mean, he trolled his way in the White House. The media kept feeding the troll. The troll gets fatter and fatter and more powerful, and that's what happens with trolls. I mean, when you feed the trolls,
yeah, I've seen that on the streams.
Yeah, when you feed the trolls, they get
really powerful for president.
Yeah, they get powerful and popular for some reason, and they fed Trump like the biggest fattest troll that's ever been fed in the history of trolldom, and now this time now they have a different angle on it. He's not really necessarily trolling himself into anything, but he's got himself. He has established himself, at least amongst that certain right wing base, as like the ultimate victim. He is
But
the top of their.
he was that before this ruling. Like this, it didn't take this ruling to establish him as that. He's been that for years with that right wing Republican base that you're talking about.
But he is out polling Biden right now.
Yeah, I saw something where, gosh, let me see if I can remember it. Oh yeah, like the pro-Palestinians for some reason, like 12%. He got 12% increase from the pro-Palestinian crowd, which I don't know why. So even, but like even so, Biden's either turning them off or Trump is appealing to even them.
Yep.
I wonder what it is about trolls that people feed them the way they do. Like I know not to feed the trolls. I've been around enough of them in my life. But what is so attractive that people will feed trolls to that Godzilla level?
Well, they a lot of people that feed the trolls, they see them more as like what's the term? They see them more as lolcows. Really, they think they're just like
more as what?
Lolcows, as they call them. You know, people that they just like to make fun of. They're just like people that just like do stupid stuff. So they try to keep them going just to see what stupid thing they'll say next. But it's just it's a really bad strategy because it just makes them more powerful. But I also saw that John Fetterman is now basically, according to some people, is now basically going the way of being a conservative. Well, that's interesting.
Well, who's calling him that though? Because if it's the left, everybody's a conservative.
I mean,
I did see something. I did see something about him, but I don't remember what it was. Where he took a position that I found very reasonable.
Yeah, no, he did.
And a lot of the Democrats were pushing back on it, but I don't remember what the position was.
Well, basically, he said that he's not a progressive and that he's a regular Democrat, and his positions have gotten a lot more leftist sometimes recently. I don't know what's going on with that exactly. The news article on Rising the news video on Rising didn't really go, but it was like one of the big conservative commentators on Twitter that actually made that claim. So I don't know.
Well, I think if you're not a progressive, you are a conservative because you're trying to conserve everything the progressives are trying to dismantle.
Yep, that's probably the case.
I also had a TikTok video. I wasn't sure I wanted to show it because I wasn't sure I wanted to give this person a platform, but I think I will.
Sure.
After all, it is the extreme stream, so we'll see what happens. It's a trans activist.
Joe and Jack, please come on this show, man. We need some fresh blood in here. Come on.
What do you mean? Like we're not good enough for to have a show?
I just think the more the merrier.
All right.
Not to be like really dramatic or anything. Can we just start stabbing transphobes at this point? Like, we have such a big problem of transphobic people being fucking idiots and not getting their shit kicked in. Can we just start kicking their shit in? It would be so much easier for everyone. The entire world would be so much better if we could just stab a transphobe. Say something transphobic, you get stabbed. The world would be beautiful.
I don't think that's lip. No, Jack. I don't think it is.
Political violence. So don't tell me that the right that you're all scared of is the side that you're worried about all the political violence from. Because there are violent authoritarian elements on the left as well. Trans activists, Antifa, BLMers. They want to point at the right. It's projection. They want to point at the right and demonize them, and they want to make themselves seem morally righteous and virtuous. And hopefully this pops that bubble a little bit. and that narrative. I can see some kind of trans insurrection, just like I can see the J6 thing.
Yeah, it can happen.
Yeah, I don't know how much that one video is protected by the state. I'm surprised it even got. Like, I'm interested to know what happens to her, him, it. I don't know. It didn't say its gender, so I'm gonna go with the neutral pronoun it, since it's a single person. Yeah, Jack, what's up? So we did politics. Is there anything philosophical we want to discuss, or mental health, or streaming drama?
Yeah, you still haven't come on and told us what happened with Tommy.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. I'm willing to let that conversation go. I don't want to feed Tommy any more than.
No problem.
Unless Jack knows something interesting.
He, she, it, and shit. Yeah. I don't know. I'm my brain is I woke up from a nap and my brain isn't woken up all the way up, so I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get myself awake. Feel
Well, this show really is designed to be a panel for guests. So if we're not going to have any guests, we don't have to go for long.
No, I think that
It's more of a conversation space for other people besides us. You'll jump on later. Okay, I can only go a couple of hours today. I have an appointment this afternoon.
But yeah, but Joe, if you're out there, man, like we always like having you on. So please come on. Yeah. So there hasn't really been much, and I was looking through like what I'd watched on YouTube recently, trying to see if like what my
Oh yeah, let me check YouTube.
What I watched recently was the John Fetterman thing. I haven't watched the new JJ McCullough video with Paula yet. I haven't watched it yet.
I caught some of it. It was a typical Paul JJ McCullough exchange. And Andrew went on whatever podcast again, and I caught part of it. And this is what they were arguing about. And it's too long for me to go look for the clip, but it was that group of women, and Andrew made the, to me, very self-evident, sensible claim that as children get older, they need less parental care than like an infant or a toddler does. And those women absolutely freaked out, and it kind of made me realize that the like women want to be in that mother role through every stage of life. They don't ever want to not be in that, because it reduces their value or importance if that's what they invest their identity in. And so Andrew was saying like a 12-year-old needs less attention from a mother than he would if he were an infant. And the women absolutely freaked out and started pushing back on Andrew and saying all kind of crazy things. And it just kind of made me realize that I don't want to call it toxic maternalism, but if there's a toxic masculinity, I'm going to appropriate that adjective to make my point here.
Yeah. Toxic femininity is a real thing. That's for sure.
It not even femininity itself, but maternalism, like that urge to not let the child grow up and to find a way to always mother and nurture it beyond what it actually needs at that stage. And I've had boyfriends that were enmeshed with their mothers. For some reason, that's very common in the gay world, and I've seen it there too, where adult grown men are still in this like mother-son relationship to the exclusion of almost anybody else in their life. They haven't developed out of that because they've been kept in that state through through every stage of development. A lot of it is single mothers too, like single mothers and gay sons, where they become like their own couple.
Yeah.
And so I just thought their reaction was very interesting. It made me realize something else about not all women, just the awful women. I don't know, Jack. I've thought about this a lot because it certainly didn't happen with my mom. Like she was I'm grateful. Like we were never coddled growing up, and that's one of the things that I'm very, very appreciative about her for. If you had a problem, don't go to her. If you're in jail, don't call her. She's not coming to get you out. It's probably this innate tendency it's the whole nature nurture debate. Like we could use this as an example, but you can say it about anything. How much is nature? How much is nurture? And I honestly don't know, especially because my nature is so weird. Like I don't have a neurotypical nature anyway, so it's hard to use my experience as any kind of baseline to determine that. It seems like neurotypical people, or let's just say regular people, normies, are more susceptible to nurture, maybe. But at the same time, I don't think you can nurture anything. Like you can't create something in somebody that's not there innately. So if you can't nurture somebody to be more aggressive if they don't already have that tendency, or you can't nurture somebody to be more codependent if they're not already somehow predisposed to codependence innately. So I think it's a mix. It's a combination. We come into the world with certain tendencies, like certain seeds that we have in us that if you have the right type of nurture, it can make that seed grow. But the seed has to be there for the nurture to have any effect. Otherwise, it's just conditioning. And I don't know. I didn't grow up with a lot of nurturing. Like I was the oldest child, so I didn't have it was just me kind of by myself for a while. And I was left free to wander and play and do my own thing and develop. So I didn't have a lot of people hovering over me, trying to tell me, do this, do that. So I got to develop a lot of independence very early. So I don't really know what it's like to be exposed to a lot of nurturing at an early age and have that impact your development in a certain kind of way.
No.
We had very little rules. In school, I was kind of on my own track because I was in the gifted program. So I was the teachers were working with me individually. So I didn't get a lot of school indoctrination. That was very individualized too. When I knew what.
But you're neurotypical. I'm guessing he's either asking when you're neurotypical or when you were gay.
We didn't have that language for it. I always knew I was different. Let's say the minute I'm the oldest of four, my sister's next, and then two boys after her. I'd say by the time my sister came along and I had something to contrast it with, I could tell, I knew right then and there that I was not like my mom and my sister, and then my other brothers, and then my schoolmates. So, I guess when my siblings started to come along and I started to enter the school system, I could tell almost right away, and so could everybody else around me, that I was not like the other people. But I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what that meant or what it was. And I didn't internalize anything negative about it. I just knew I was different, but it didn't seem like it was a bad thing or a good thing. It was just a neutral thing, but I knew it was definitely a thing.
Well,
but being in the gifted program helped because it gave me a context for it where I could develop a positive identity around it. And that's why I'm so disturbed by the woke and the progressives that are trying to eliminate gifted programs in the name of equity. Seattle got rid of their gifted programs as well as some other states and cities. And I think that's horrible for people like me. Plus for y'all too, because y'all are going to be stuck in the classrooms with us now. We won't have y'all won't get a break from us.
So I know we got, since Jack and Joe, if you guys are both in the audience,
Yeah, they
we,
know the links at the top. I don't want to beg
no, I'm not.
for
That's not what I'm
panelists.
saying. I'm
Oh.
asking them to answer the comments. Me and Jeff have an idea concept we're working on, where to do like a partial, like we're not sure which one to do first. We're thinking about doing either like a streaming, an on-stream movie thing where the whole thing will take place on like one stream, or possibly, and also possibly doing like simultaneously, or maybe like after or before, um, to do like an actual like live like game show type thing. Be kind of a little bit like Survivor or The Mole, where we'll have like 10 people on like a stream, and like we'll in every episode we'll eliminate someone, right? And we'll eliminate them either through voting like on Survivor, or eliminate them through and we'll have different challenges and stuff like that for the people on the stream, stuff like that. Um, and I was curious what you guys' thoughts on that would be, and if you'd be interested in participating in it.
Yeah, anybody interested? We're like we're piloting a few new things that we're in talks about, and so if you want to be part of that, either some kind of online game, or the first thing we're going to do is read through Chris's script. So if you want to be a part of that or have acting ability, we're going to do that live one day when we can get everybody together. To your question, Jack, in my talk with Andrew, or my talks with him, which have been very minimal, because I'm not his favorite person. If I understand what he means by degeneracy, he has this concept that people's mostly sexual morality, he's really concerned with like healthy reproduction or human flourishing, as he says, and human flourishing seems to be related to ability to reproduce and raise healthy children. That certain influences or activities or subcultures or whatever can influence people away from what he sees as a healthy sexuality, sexual expression, and family life, like reproductive unit. And so his degeneracy mostly seems to focus on that, like anything that he has this ideal, this reproductive ideal, and anything that influences people away from that ideal, I think he would consider degenerate. You're degenerating from an ideal, which is probably the nuclear family, a healthy environment to raise kids, which there's a debate on whether two men can provide that or two women, whether it has to be a male and a female. I think as long as there's positive role models of each gender, they'll be okay. I don't know if it has to be a male and female in the home. I definitely think that for males, some kind of father or father figure is necessary, like a positive male mentor, because there are certain things that males need from older males that they can't, like women just can't give it to them. They can't initiate men into manhood. And women, I can't speak to at all. I don't know. I think they probably need female guidance or mentorship.
According to
no, I don't think Andrew's going to throw me off a building if he has his government. I really don't. And in fact, I want to see him try. I don't think Andrew is that sociopathic.
I mean, they're just trying to find out if they can fly, right? It's horrible. Yeah, I don't think he's that. I think Andrew's mostly at this point. I think he's mostly a grifter, to be honest. So I think he's found a niche amongst his fan base that really responds to.
Well, now it's the whatever girls.
Well, I mean, who knows?
He moved from the Crucible to TikTok to the whatever girls. And Andrew said before many times, he doesn't think the most effective method is coercion or force or authoritarian. He thinks people have to come to this on their own. Like it has to be volitional, and the motivation has to be intrinsic, and that's a very liberal principle to me. Like he would use debate and persuasion to convince people that his ideas are superior, and then they would adopt it through that realization that if you force it, it's not going to work. You can't force people into Christianity or some kind of religion. You can incentivize through law and policy, which he may try to do. I don't know if he would outlaw gay marriage or not. I don't remember what his answer was.
Oh, I think he definitely would, according to what things he said. But I don't know that he would.
But I don't think he would criminalize homosexuality. You can't criminalize ontology anyway. I mean, you could try to criminalize the behavior.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know. I mean, and besides, yeah, I mean, if he really believes those things about, you know, it needs to be intrinsic and everything, if you really believe those things, then obviously he wouldn't do that. But you know,
I mean, I don't have a reason to not believe him, especially when he went on public record defending it.
no, I mean, yeah, I'm not. I just, like I said, I don't think he really that strongly believes in a lot of things. I see him as like he's almost conservative Vaush, which is kind of funny because he had that debate with Vaush that we watched where Vaush really beclouded himself. So,
I think Andrew has principles. He's not always consistent with them, but I think he operates from deeply held principles.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think that the thing about Andrew is that I think that he's very good at debates. He's very good at winning debates. Even he's just not very
good. He's not good at dialectic. He's good at rhetoric.
Yeah, he's not
good at dialectic.
He's not good at being persuasive. I don't think his rhetoric has a very good chance of convincing anyone that he's right. But he can on a point by point basis win an argument against another side. You know, like he's good at, like, you know, kind of dismantling an argument or just letting the other side like dismantle themselves. He's very good at, like, you know, knowing when to not talk and when to, you know, I mean, he can win a debate. I don't know that he's actually going to really convince anyone that he's right, though. I've yet to hear a single convincing real argument.
He has convinced me on some things, like the rights issue. Even some of his
that's something I've heard from many
positions people around men and women. Truth, it's a means of determining truth. Oh, let me put the comment up. What do you think is the goal of the dialectic? It's truth. It's logic and reasoning and discussion and debate with the aim of getting at truth. Truth seeking, sense making. It can be. There's probably a persuasive element to it too, in the sense that it's logos in contrast with pathos or ethos, in the sense that you're like you hope that people would be persuaded by the truth. Like I am. Like, if somebody can show me something's true, that's what I'm going to go with, because I don't like to live in delusion or irreality. I like to think I like to be as as aligned with reality as possible, whatever that is.
I think Jack actually would make hold on, I have a call from a doctor's office. 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay. It reminds me of that quote by Proust too. Love is a striking example of how little reality means to us. I think we live largely in our imaginations, and primarily in the sense that that was our primary mode of perception before. Logic and dialectic was a later development. So dialectic is a way of refining that primary imaginative mode of apprehending the world. It's not a substitute for it, but it works with it and maybe improves upon it, at least when it comes to truth. like determining what truth is? Because the imagination is what we want to see, like the world that we want to live in, and it's rooted in desire. And truth is the world that we do live in, or actually live in, independent of anything that we think it should or should not be. The is-ought gap. And even like think of kids and toddlers and young children. They live in the world. They live in their own world that they think is the world. And as they get older, they adjust themselves to what they discover is really the world.
Is-ought gap is very important. Yeah, I agree. I think Jack would make a good choice for like the shadowy host for our
I was thinking a contestant because he's already kind of a double agent.
That's true.
He has
I
that
know
skill
that
set.
I know that he doesn't
Joshua
want-
Jones too.
He doesn't really necessarily show his face on camera though, so we could have him like in shadow, you know, like cloaked in shadow, or he can be on camera, but no one can see his face.
Yeah, because Christianity is not it's not concerned with understanding the world as it is. It's totally about imagining the world as it is, or could be, or should be. So I'd say it's mostly ought, especially when it centers itself on the resurrection, which has no basis in any kind of experiential reality.
Well, I mean, even
It's
though-
fantasy thinking. It's mythological thinking. Jung distinguished between the two types of thinking. I forgot what he called them, but one was like imagistic or fantasy, and the other one was directed thinking, which is more the logical dialectic type. Christianity is pure mythologizing. It is a mythology. It's as mythological as the Greek myths, the Hebrew, Iranian, Babylonian.
There are historical precedents for situations where someone, quote unquote, resurrected from the dead because people thought.
Oh come on! Oh come on! Don't start that with me. What?
Well,
First of all, what is a historical precedent, and how is that evidence of a resurrection? Are you talking about a report somebody read in some ancient document?
No. That's what I mean. I mean, like people have been buried alive before, and people thought they were dead, and then they were considered, like, people thought they were monsters or something that got resurrected. I'm saying, like,
you think that's what happened to Jesus?
It could have been. I'm just saying it's possible.
But he eventually died. He, like, even if he got buried alive and came out of the grave somehow because he was still living, even after being nailed to a cross, at some point he died because he's a human.
Yeah, no, I actually do believe that Christ died, though. I believe he did. He died a natural death, like, later on. I think the ascension, the whole ascension into the clouds thing is stupid. I've always thought that, and it's even proven to be, by biblical scholars, even think that particular part of the Book of John was added on
because it's a myth. It's mythological thinking. It has this internal consistency and truth on its own, but it's not a type of thinking that's designed to understand reality as it is. It has its own purpose, and people confuse it with reality, like an attempt to describe reality.
Yes, I agree. I wasn't really saying it. I wasn't saying it to, like, try to, like, prove that the resurrection was real or something like that. As much as I was saying that there are possible scientific explanations for, like, why something like that could have happened. Of course, it requires a lot of like revisionist thing. It require there to be a lot of, like, a lot of different circumstances in place beyond, like, I think being nailed to a cross, being crucified, probably would not be a circumstance where that would happen. And I was just saying that it's not entirely impossible
for somebody to not die. Oh, he got disconnected. Yes, it is entirely impossible for human being, a biological organism, to not die. At least humans. I don't know of a single human that has not, other than the ones living currently, and we're all going to die, that has not died. Okay, we lost Chris. I'm getting a disconnected device message. So hopefully he comes back on. Here he is.
I don't know what the hell happened there. That was weird.
I don't know either. You got disconnected.
My
So
camera
yes,
just, like,
it is entirely impossible for humans to not die.
yes, I agree with that. Yeah, and I do believe
Immortality is not a real thing.
although right now science is working really hard on it. They've come quite close, close at least in terms of like where they ever were, in terms of learning how to stop aging to some degree, because aging itself is considered an abnormality. They say like that there's no reason that people should have to age, and they've been looking into things like they've been looking at how to reverse aging or like stop aging in like mice and stuff like that, and they've had some weird amount of success with it here in recent years. So I mean, like I it's certainly not possible now.
Well,
because of
yeah,
technology now,
but that's a whole separate thing from Jesus.
I agree. I wasn't talking about Jesus in that sense. I was just saying like I'm just saying that immortality could be possible at some point in the future. I kind of hope it doesn't. I think immortality is a really bad idea.
I don't think
that-
I don't think you're gonna stop biology from dying, like cell death and all this. I don't see how you're gonna keep a biological organism indefinitely alive.
Or at least
Like, I don't think we're ever gonna have that kind of power over nature.
I mean, like, they could. The very most I hope they ever achieve is extending age to a much greater degree, or stop aging to some greater degree. Like because I think it was like maybe it's octopi or some sea animal that like they found like they were examining its genes, and the way it kind of refreshes itself over time, and kind of like it can, because like the same basic.
Well,
Same way
we're
a
not
tree.
sea animals.
We're not.
Yeah, but we're
I mean,
still gonna die, and now we're talking about like just anti-aging, which is 4 or 5 topics removed from Jesus. So we've
Okay, sorry. I thought it was an interesting topic. I was just talking about
it is, but it's like we're just randomly going from rabbit hole to rabbit hole, and
okay. Sorry.
it's not staying focused on anything. How about sex magic? How about it?
Yeah,
I would love to try it if anybody wants to try sex magic. I used to I had a tantra book when I was pagan and dabbling in that stuff, but I didn't have anybody to try any of it with. Some people said that eternal life is a code word for secret knowledge and sex magic. What do you mean? I'd be interested in hearing more.
Yeah, it has been suggested. I have no comment on experience with sex magic.
I mean, just getting to have sex at this point would be magic enough for me, at least.
I can't say I've never attempted any sex magic stuff, but I think that it's rather easy to tell yourself it was successful or not, just because based on based on various things. It's not the kind of thing that has like concrete there's not concrete result type things to speak to, so it's really
But sex magic is like using the energy generated during sex and directing it toward some kind of goal, like magical.
Yes, that is
goal. Because I have experienced sex that was like mystical and magical, where like you don't know where you end and the other person begins, and you like merge into this one consciousness, and it was very mystical, and that was kind of had this magical quality to it. But sex magic itself is a technique of like achieving goals out your will.
I've experienced both. Both the thing you're talking about, and like the attempt to focus that energy elsewhere. And I mean, at the time, I thought we thought it worked. I mean, it's very easy to convince yourself something like that works, though.
Did it accomplish what you were trying to get to do? Did the spell work?
Yeah, but it's very easy. It's very easy to see how that could have just happened anyway. It was also it's also been unsuccessful. So I mean,
can it pay your rent? Can it pay your rent? Can it pay your rent?
Yeah, I have. Of course, like
We'll try it.
yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should.
You and Lindsay try a money spell.
We never tried anything for those kind of purposes. Like I've always believed that any kind of ritual type, quote unquote, magic type thing, if it could work at all, and I'm not convinced that it can, but if it could work at all, has to be done out of for unselfish reasons and purposes. It has to be done for an overall sense of good or something or some. It can't be done for selfish reasons. If it is, it becomes corrupted and so forth.
That keeps the magic from working.
That's always been like, I don't really know where that belief comes from, but that's always something I've believed. And anytime I've ever attempted something like that that was for selfish reasons, it seemed to either backfire or just not work at all. So I don't necessarily believe that that's necessarily it was caused by the thing either. I totally see that it was that's probably just my mind rationalizing things anyway. I try to be open to these sort of things like in my life, but at the same time, I also am I'm kind of bound by my logical side. It's the same. I think believing in magic is very similar to believing in like the myth of like or the possibility of like universal socialism or communism type thing. It's believing in that it's that kind of magical thinking. It's magical thinking in that sense too, that everyone's just gonna like come together and all work for the same goal, and like it's just like it's very silly in some degree. But I mean,
it's fantasy thinking, but then I think so is Christianity and religion. I'm not saying it doesn't have a value, but it's a different type of thinking than scientific thinking.
I think a lot of Christianity, though, if you can easily take it as both being true and also being like somewhat like, as you were talking about, from a mythological perspective, more myth based, and like the myths can still hold truths even if they aren't technically true, and like so that there's truth in it even if it isn't the letter of the law kind of truth.
So we must be talking of a different type of truth. So there must be multiple types of truth.
Deeper truth. I mean, like, well, it's still truth, but there's factual truth, and then there's deeper truth, right? Isn't there? I mean, I think that's. I mean, there's sometimes.
What's an example of a deeper truth?
It's a good question, and I feel like I had a answer for it just a second ago before you asked me. Now it flew out of my brain.
Maybe it'll come back.
Yeah,
because I don't know that you might be onto something. I just. There's human truths, like truths that apply to like love and our higher ideals and justice and stuff like that. They have no meaning outside of the human world or the human mind even. So there's truths like that are not necessarily empirical. So those could be what you're calling deeper truth.
It's possible, yeah.
Like truth, goodness, beauty, the classical virtues.
I mean, so you really do think that, like, like the world is you're a complete naturalist to the degree that, like, that like there isn't anything outside of the natural world. It's completely like people live, they die. There's no.
Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be? Why would I have to assume there's anything in addition to that without reason for it? I'm a monist. I'm not a dualist. I don't believe there's this other substance outside of nature. Because I have no reason to. Like Occam's razor. Why would I adopt a hypothesis that when the evidence doesn't call for it?
What about quantum mechanics? What about things like dark energy and dark matter that we have no evidence
for?
But
those are all naturalistic phenomena as far as I understand.
As far as we understand them, but we don't actually understand them. We don't actually have any proof they exist.
Right, but why is there a reason to assume they're also not as naturalistic as all the other phenomena we've studied? Like, why would we suddenly start thinking that this is not naturalistic?
Have you ever like looked into the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment?
The delayed who?
The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment.
Quantum eraser?
Mm-hmm. look into it. Like delayed choice is essential in that. Delayed choice. I might be quantum eraser experiment. There. Okay. I'm making sure I did get the right thing. So this is like this goes back to the double slit experiment, which I'm sure you've heard about, right? You know, the double slit experiment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And the big problem with it is that anytime they try to actually measure, they actually try to put any kind of instrument that measures the photon as it passes through the thing, that no matter what, when they measured it, it will automatically always go back to the one pattern, like the first pattern. It like basically without measurement, it can be like it either turns into a wave or into or into a single. It'll turn to like five lines, or it turns into like the wave pattern. And so they in order to try to figure this out, I guess out here. I'll read this from Bing's like AI explanation here and see what much sense this makes. So it says it's a variation of the famous double slit experiment in quantum physics. It demonstrates the behavior of photons, light particles, can be influenced by measurements made after they pass through the slits, even though they have already decided whether to act as particles or waves. This phenomenon is known as a quantum eraser or a quantum erasure quantum eraser. The experiment involves sending photons through a beam splitter, which randomly directs them to either a detector or another beam splitter. The second beam splitter then sends each of the photons to one of two possible paths labeled A and B. Each path has a detector at the end, and the photons are recorded at either A or B. However, the paths also cross each other at some point, creating an interference pattern. That reveals the wave nature of the photons. This interference pattern, I know this is really hard to understand. Basically, the thing is that this experiment completely breaks all known physics in every way, because even with this insane setup where the photon, if it had consciousness, which is already bizarre enough to think as it is, that the awareness of the detector already affecting the experiment was already weird enough. But even when they set it up like this, where after the detector isn't even put in place until way after it's already gone through the double slit. If that detector is still in place, it will still affect the wave pattern. It'll still collapse back into its first form, despite the fact that there would be no way for it to. It basically information has to travel through time backwards and inform itself in the past that the detector is coming, and therefore to collapse back into the first pattern. It's bizarre. It makes no sense. Like, there's lots of videos online that'll explain it to you. That explains a lot better than I do. And even reading it, then like my brain still kind of melts a little bit, because it's just like it's a lot of science jargon that I don't understand. But like, I mean, but even like the most even some of the most advanced and most like brilliant scientific minds of our time currently still have no explanation for it. They have absolutely no explanation for that at all. That it's things like that give me.
But, okay, my question is, why, even if everything you described is true, why would that necessitate hypothesizing some kind of supernatural cause?
I'm not even saying that's supernatural. All I'm saying is that there is.
Why couldn't there be a naturalistic explanation for that we just haven't discovered yet?
There could be a naturalistic explanation for everything that we currently call supernatural too.
Yeah, I think there is. First of all, I don't think most of what we call supernatural even exist outside of the human mind.
Well, I'm saying like, but even let's just like say for the sake of argument that it all does exist. I'm saying that there's probably some.
But well, if it exists, then you're saying even if it exists, like if ghosts exist, there's a naturalistic explanation for them?
Yes.
Oh, well, this conversation is pointless because they don't exist. So it's just going to spin us off into more rabbit holes.
Well, ghosts aren't something I believe in, but you don't have to worry about that with me. But I mean, I'm saying like, but even if there is such a thing as a demon or something, or an angel or a demon or something like that, there could be an actual. They could be actual.
There are demons, but they're part of being human inside of humans. It's not like these entities that you summon with Ouija boards.
Right, but I'm saying, but would it be completely impossible for that to be something that exists that actually is actually something that is that's part of the natural part of the universe? I mean, I'm just saying there's so much that we don't understand.
But then it wouldn't be supernatural; it would be natural.
I think that pretty much everything that is supernatural is natural, just without the explanation for it yet.
Then it's not supernatural; it would be natural.
It's not. No, I don't think that. I don't really like the term supernatural. I'm just saying we call it supernatural because we don't fully understand it yet. But I think we understand.
Or because it doesn't exist.
It could be that it doesn't exist. I've seen evidence of things that we would consider supernatural in my life. I've seen things that happen that I can't explain. And maybe
that doesn't make them supernatural. That's the point I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I'm saying I don't think they're supernatural.
When you reach that wall of mystery where you don't have an explanation, you assume the existence of something supernatural. And I don't see a reason to why would you default to that instead of just living in the unknown and waiting for some naturalistic explanation to come along?
Well, there's no guarantee that natural explanation will come along, but
no, but it's also not evidence that there's a supernatural. That's a big assumption that, I can't find a naturalistic reason for this thing, therefore there must be supernatural.
That's not what I'm saying, though. I'm saying that I can't find an explanation for this thing. I do think there's an explanation that exists, but that we don't fully have this understanding to get there yet. And that right now, that's what people call supernatural, but I don't consider it as being supernatural. I think it is just natural, just something without an explanation. My point behind the quantum eraser thing and stuff like that is that even there's things in science that people study hardcore all the time, they still have no understanding of. I mean, they don't consider this thing supernatural.
But they don't go around calling it supernatural either.
I'm not calling it supernatural either.
Well, why are we having this discussion?
Well, I was just saying that, I'm saying the things that people call supernatural, just because they call them that, doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't.
I'm talking about God, resurrection, spirits, angel, supernatural entities, or the existence of a soul or spirit. Why would not having a naturalistic explanation for something require or motivate someone to adopt as an explanation the qualities I'm just talking about? It must be God, or it must be a spirit, or there must be a soul.
Yeah, see, what Jack just said, gravity is basically supernatural, and he's right. It's
gravity's not supernatural. We have a naturalistic understanding and explanation of gravity. What's supernatural about it? It's a natural force. It's a physical force.
We really don't, but there's no full evidence of that.
We went through this on another stream and we looked it up, and it was way out in deep space at the edge of the known universe. And again, that's the same as your quantum experiment. Just because at the edges of science we don't have a complete understanding yet of how it works, that it's supernatural. That's where I thought you were going with this argument, and you kept saying you weren't, but that's exactly where we ended up.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm saying that we don't understand it. I'm not saying that it's supernatural. I don't believe that it's supernatural. I believe that we don't.
Well, you just said. I thought you just said when Jack said gravity is basically supernatural, that's what you were talking about.
According to how you're defining supernatural, basic gravity is basically supernatural.
It's a spirit or a god or some kind of non-naturalistic entity.
It might as well be, because we don't understand it on any kind of logical terms.
That's what I'm saying. That's sloppy thinking. Saying it might as well be is not the same thing as saying we don't know yet, but there's probably a naturalistic explanation. To me, it's two totally different things. Saying, there's something supernatural because we don't have a natural explanation, versus it's probably natural, we just don't understand it yet. How does gravity is probably natural, but we don't understand it yet? The same. How is that the same thing as there must be a God?
Let me give you an example. Let me give an example. So. And I think I've done this with you before, but let me just reiterate it again. Let me know if my audio.
Because I'm getting very, it's making me very impatient with the.
No, I understand. So let me give an example. So, if you go into a desert and you find a watch, you wouldn't assume that it naturally got there over a course of a long period of time. No, because
right? I know a watch is something that is created by humans that was left there. I know that watches are not found in nature.
So when you look at a human body and you see how complex it is and how it is very amazing at how it functions, that 90% of it is not even human cells, right? It's actually an amalgamation of many different things mixed together.
Yeah, because it emerged from nature.
Right.
I
but what I'm
wouldn't.
saying
I
is,
would not confuse a human body with a watch. If I found a human body in the desert, I would not think, "Oh, someone must have made this and left it here."
why not? Why would you assume that?
Because watches emerge from humans, and we can see that happen. And
Well,
humans
if
emerge from
humans
nature.
if humans are an
So,
aspect of
like
nature,
humans precede watches.
right? But if humans are an aspect of nature and humans create watches, you kind of see what I'm getting at.
No, that watches are an aspect of nature.
If we evolved from nothing alive to something alive, that is basically a miracle. In other words, right?
I mean, you can call it that if you want. It's not a supernatural miracle.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, it's astronomically unlikely to happen. Essentially,
Well, it did
based on
happen.
what we know. Correct. So what I'm saying is, if you grant one thing that is astronomically impossible, then you must grant that other things that you
No. Why must you? Why can't you grant each thing that the
Why
evidence
must you not?
supports as
Why-
it happened
why-
instead of making leaps that the evidence doesn't warrant? That's
Why-
my
Why
difficulty
must
here.
you not? But why must you not make such an assumption?
Because scientifically, your theory should conform to the evidence, and Occam's razor is not bringing in unnecessary explanations.
It's actually a simpler explanation that God did it than it is that it just happened with math.
It
over
might be a
long period of time.
simpler explanation, but it's not one that fits the evidence. So it has
But
it has to also fit the evidence.
we don't actually.
Otherwise,
have,
we can just make up all kind of explanations.
and
Well, you're interpreting it. You're interpreting the data that way, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I believe in evolution, Jeff. I believe in it, but at the same time, we don't actually have any evidence of any single cell organism.
But not having evidence, which happens in science all the time, is not evidence of a God. Lack of evidence is not evidence that therefore God.
Well, but we have to interpret the data that we do have, and your interpretation is, well, it can't be God, and if my interpretation is, it must be God. I mean, we're really just looking at the same data and making assumptions that we can't really prove one way or the other anyway.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm willing to let science do its thing, and the areas where we're unknown, I'm willing to leave them as unknown and not make any kind of claim about it. I don't know what's going. I don't know why the particle's doing what it's doing, or why the gravity is doing what it's doing way out in deep space.
Right, but what
I'm not going to assume it's God.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, if it's more logically consistent that there is a creator than there is not a creator,
it's not logically. It's not more logically consistent that there's a creator. It's more logically consistent that we're going to eventually find a naturalistic explanation for it, like we have with everything else, than that there's this new phenomena called God that we've never encountered yet.
Or we'll just die out without any explanation. That's probably the most likely.
That's what's honestly, that's what's really going to happen, because no one's going to comprehend the entire universe in one lifetime.
Right. So, but I think that you could make an argument that it is more logically consistent to assume there is a
then make it
creator than there isn't.
Because I can't.
I mean, and it doesn't have to be. It wouldn't have to be supernatural per se in that sense of like a man in the cloud type thing. I mean, you could think of it as you could think of a God as an alien being and something that's.
Well, look, don't you?
It would be just as ridiculous.
Aren't you kind of looking at nature
or just as
God,
unscientific?
You're basically just replacing God with nature and saying, well, nature did it. Well, what is nature? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
nature is a process. Nature didn't do anything. It's a process.
So why can't God be a process?
Well, then what's the need to call it God if it's just a natural process? Just be a naturalist and call it nature.
Because if you see yourself as an aspect of God rather than an aspect of nothing, very different.
I don't see myself as an aspect of nothing. There's nature. You started with contrasting nature and God, and you ended with contrasting God and nothing.
But do you think that nature came from nothing or it came from something?
It came from the universe.
And where did the universe come from?
I don't know. I don't think we know yet.
But do you think it
But
logically
even not
to say-
knowing where the universe came from doesn't mean that there's a God. That's not evidence that we should assume there's a God.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, do you think it's more logically consistent to say that the universe came from nothing or came from something?
I'm having a hard time with your framing because the universe didn't come from anything. It emerged.
Okay, did it
Well,
emerge from
right,
nothing?
but that's the thing is that
We don't
See,
know.
this
We
is
don't
where I
know
get-
what
this is what
happened
I'm
before.
saying, yeah.
We don't know what happened before the Big Bang. It's a big
Well, the
unknown.
Big
It's a
Bang-
black box. It's a question mark. There's no reason to assume that that it's a God. It's something supernatural.
Did you know that? Did you know that the Big Bang was a Jewish mythology before it was a scientific theory?
I think you're confusing the two, or you're seeing resemblances in the two.
Can you just Google Big Bang and Kabbalah and see if there's anything that pops up? Because
Okay.
I'm driving, so I can't.
I'm
Look it up.
familiar with Kabbalah, but
It was a rabbi that first proposed the Big Bang. That's true.
it was a Roman Catholic priest and
Oh,
physicist.
it's Roman Catholic. Sorry, I thought it was a rabbi, but my mistake. Any case, I mean, like I wasn't trying to get into a heated thing about it. I was just saying, like, it's not like I don't think of these things as being supernatural. Was my point. I don't think that there's such a thing as supernatural in the sense of like what we think of as magic in that sense. I think that even if any kind of magic really exists, I think there's a natural. It's part of the natural order, part of the natural. It's part of the natural world that we just don't fully understand yet.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything other than a natural world or a physical world. There's the mental world, but that supervenes on top of the physical organism that the human is, like the human brain.
Sure.
It doesn't exist independently of the physical brain.
Sure. Okay. I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Oh, I didn't realize we lost him.
yeah, he lost connection.
But still, no God. Like God is an unnecessary hypothesis. There's no reason to bring in the concept of God when we don't have to. That's not how science works. And so
I mean-
people that use God as a hypothetical explanation are not doing science. They're doing something else. They're doing mythological speculation. Or they're just not interested in reality.
Well, okay, but science would be the would be explaining things in the natural world through experimentation and also through like the evidence we see through other things. Like if we can kind of infer that if we see that everything that in our physical world has a process behind it and has like there's a process that takes place, and everything that we create has to be created by the things that we create are all created by the hands of human beings. It does lend itself towards the idea that that's possible that the natural world itself has something that's that actually guides its creation as well, whether it being an intelligent being or something more primordial than that.
How is that warranted scientifically?
I'm just saying, from what we have in evidence from like what we see in the physical world is that we see that things don't just pop into existence. We see that there has to be a catalyst behind them. Something. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah, an efficient cause.
Right.
Aristotle's four causes.
Exactly. So I'm just saying that. So because everything has to have an equal and opposite reaction, every reaction has an action that's behind it. Therefore, it does lend itself to the idea that there had to be some sort of catalyst, some sort of catalyzing aspect that starts creation, starts the universe.
What is the Big Bang?
The Big Bang? I mean, the Big Bang could be anything from. The Big Bang itself has been thrown into question many times here recently, but there's been a lot of talk in the science world about like there's been a lot of problems with the Big Bang stuff recently. So
whatever, I'm just using that as the accepted initial catalyzing action, whatever it is. Why should we suddenly assume that there's not some catalyst beyond that that's just as naturalistic as all the other catalysts we've come up with, instead of saying, oh, well, the God?
I mean, once again, I'm not saying, oh, well, then God. I'm just saying, oh, well, then there's.
It sounds like you are, though. Like it sounds like you're making an argument that what we like because we create watches. Maybe something created us, which is not scientific thinking, and because things emerge in nature, maybe the universe emerged from God, which is also not scientific thinking. Like you're making observations, but the hypothesis that you're using to explain them are not.
You call it God, but I'm not calling it God. I'm just saying. My point originally was that there are unknowns. There are things that are complete.
Yes, I've said that over and over and over. Science is full of unknowns. None of that justifies hypothesizing God as an explanation for those unknowns. You're moving away from scientific thinking when you do that into mythological thinking.
I don't see why that's necessarily
So
mythological.
I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying don't think you're being scientific when you do that. Jack, I don't know what this means.
The law of gravity implies an author. Oh, okay.
Science is not a belief. Scientists believing in God they can believe in God all they want, but they're not doing science when they're doing it.
Why aren't you just talking about the statue thing?
Statue thing.
Some dumbass took the head off of the Baphomet statue.
Oh yeah, we talked about it yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Or
They were talking about it on Stitching Adam.
Yeah, we talked about that day before yesterday about the Baphomet thing. Lindsay was just mentioning that whole thing with like the satanic altar thing being like taken down.
Oh yeah. Well, boy, that didn't last long in the news.
Yeah. It was kind of a nothing story in the first place.
Yeah, it really is. I kind of wanted Satanism to have more of a life than that.
Have him come back with like 50 statues.
Maybe Satanism is so normalized now. It's like being gay. Not even a thing anymore.
Well, I mean, it's a non-theistic, non-supernatural type religion. So I mean, I don't think a lot of people.
Well, it can be theistic.
It can
there
be,
are theistic Satanists.
But the most prominent form of it, I think, isn't. So
it fits me every time I meet a Satanist. I ask, are you theistic or non-theistic? Some are theistic, some are not. So I don't know what the ratio is, but I don't assume that all Satanists are non-theistic or that it's a non-theistic religion. There's both. There are even non-theistic Christians now. Think like Jordan Peterson.
And Jack, in terms of Baphomet came from the Knights Templar, right? My understanding
it came from that Eliphas Levi guy.
Well, no, but
at least
the initial conception of it was part of the accusations made against the Knights Templar that were never proven or anything. They also they accused them of all sorts of things, including perverse sexual rituals, and also that they worshipped the head of John the Baptist. So I mean, like there was a lot of things that the Catholic Church accused them of that that were never proven. They were just levied as accusations. Then the Catholic Church, used those as ways as an excuse to execute them all.
You want one?
Say hi to Jeff. Say hi to Jeff.
Say hi. Hi, dear.
Hey, Juniper.
Hi.
Hey,
Juniper.
hey, Juniper. What are you doing today?
I woke up from my nap, too. I woke up a little
You
later
getting
than I
ready for Christmas? You up from your nap?
We're trying to figure out how to get to my parents for Christmas right now. We're trying to figure out how to get money for gas, stuff like that. The van's been giving.
My mom's gonna send it.
Okay. The van's been giving trouble too, so it's been kind of it's doing this thing where it's like stuck in third gear basically, and it won't accelerate very fast because it won't drop into lower gears to get going. So the transmission is probably nearly fucked on it. I checked the transmission fluid; it was fine. So I need to check it again though. Make sure I didn't check the wrong gauge or something. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, but that's my understanding of the Baphomet thing. In terms of like the original name Baphomet and everything. Yeah,
It's associated with Muhammad too.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of different possible. So the name Baphomet appeared. It's transferred to the Inquisition of the Knights Templar. Okay, I got that right then. Wow, damn. I was kind of thinking maybe I was getting that wrong, but no, it is. But the depiction of it comes from Elipius Leve.
Well, that was the Sabbatic goat, and then it got associated with the name of Baphomet.
Like the Knights Templar seal. The Knights Templar seal is probably what they were referring to at the time, even though they were representing the Gnostic figure of Abraxas. But that's probably what they meant by Baphomet at the time. But
it's no different than any other mythology that evolves through time and collects elements of
absolutely
other cultures and adapts, and people synthesize and recreate and recast. It happened with Christianity. The Greeks did it. Like it starts with some initial mythology and then it evolves from there as it comes into contact with other cultures and concepts.
It's an interesting side note here that I don't remember reading before was that this scholar Sconfield, who worked at Dead Sea Scrolls, said that the word Baphomet was created with knowledge of the at-best substitution of the cipher, which substitutes the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet for the last, and the second for the second last, and so on. And Baphomet rendered in Hebrew is whatever interpreted using the cipher becomes Sophia, basically. So, which meant that they would be which actually makes a lot of sense that they were Gnostics. They were a Gnostic sect. So, that actually makes a lot of sense. That if they actually ever used the term Baphomet, it was just a substitution cipher thing for Sophia. That actually seems pretty solid, actually, even though it says it appeared in the Da Vinci Code, which I don't remember that being part of the Da Vinci Code, but then again, that book was so terrible, I couldn't read it that seriously. Seriously, like, Dan Brown is one of the worst writers I've ever read. He's just a writer. Abraxas, what do we think about that? I think Abraxas is a really interesting... I don't know. I mean, no one really knows that much about it, except for like it's it's this weird snake-legged. Every time I see Abraxas, I think of Xavier Renegade Angel. Did you ever see that, Jeff? Or Jack? Did you guys ever see Xavier Renegade Angel? The show that used to be.
What does it say it again?
It's called Xavier Renegade Angel. See if I can find an image of it.
So weird.
It's really dumb. It's not like a terribly great. It's not a terribly great cartoon, but he has a snake arm, and every time I see it, I think about the snake legs on Abraxas. I always think of like Xavier Renegade Angel. It was this really bizarre show that was he said it's the same guy that made Wonder Shows, on which I do love. But yeah, anyway.
Jack, do you think you're coming back on?
Yeah, I know you gotta wrap up here because you gotta go do your thing, right?
Yeah. If he doesn't come back on, we can wrap up.
Well, I mean, we already. I can't believe we already went an hour and 20 minutes. Damn, I didn't feel like we've been talking that long. Juniper likes these little like pea crisp things. We started offering these to her. She likes these a lot.
What is that?
They're like these.
Oh, like
They're like it's like a green pea that gets baked and it turns into like a crispy chip like thing.
oh.
It's like they're just
Hey,
like
cat.
like yeah, annoying cat. This is the annoying cat.
His
She don't
tail
want-
is so thin.
Yeah.
She chewed all of her hair off.
We took her to the vet too. We thought maybe she had like mange or something like that, but she doesn't. She just got hot and so she just chewed her fur off. All right, Jack, well, that's cool. Yeah, well, that's no big deal.
Okay. Well, we can do it tomorrow. I'll be here. Same time.
Yeah. What do you got going on tonight?
Tonight is the Survivor finale, but after I get back from my appointment, I'll have like 4 or 5 hours to kill while I wait for that.
Okay.
So I can message you.
Yeah, message me.
We could watch something. I thought about doing an Agatha Christie marathon because I'm getting so sucked into. I love it's period pieces. I love that time period.
You know, I don't guess you have a way to like stream like the Survivor finale on Discord or anything. Do you? I'd watch the finale.
What did
you
you say? I didn't hear what you said. Say it again.
So do you have a way to stream the Survivor finale on Discord or anything?
Yeah.
I just say I was saying I'd watch the Survivor finale with you just to get some ideas for the thing we're doing. So
Oh well, we should watch. It's better to watch a full season than the.
Probably. I watched the last 2 episodes of the very first season of Survivor just because people were like, so it was like there was such like a cultural phenomenon around it, and I was curious about it. And I remember watching those last 2 things that I didn't really get it back then, but I'm just trying
Well,
to like.
why don't we do that? Let's just watch it. The best Survivor. Australia does the best Survivor, but not the original Australian Survivor. They like revisited it and rebooted it. And I don't know what it's called. I don't think it's called Australian Survivor. It's Survivor. But anyway, there's like they used to have it on CBS and they took it off. And I was in the middle of the second season and I lost like they removed it. They pulled it from the streaming service. And so I haven't been able to catch it ever since. The first season's one of the best I've ever seen. And I want to finish the second season. And I think I've seen like seasons 4 or 5. So if you're able to get the second season of that one, I would love, or if you're able to get the first and second, I would love to rewatch those. But you have to make sure it's the right Australian Survivor, and I don't know how. Let me see if I can figure this out. Because if I Google it, it's going to tell me who wins, and I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I know. I just got to know what the name to look for is. If it's not Survivor, I don't
Let's
even
see.
know
The series first aired. And it first aired in 2022 and it got revived in 2016. So I think it's called Australian Survivor Season 1. Let's start with that one. Look for that. And fuck.
Probably Survivor AU. I'm guessing is what to look for because usually
what date is it? 2016.
The most recent one is season 10 from 8 months ago.
Yeah, so it's the first season of that.
Okay, let me see how far back.
Which should have started around 2016.
Well, shit, my tracker only goes back 7 years, so it only goes back to season 3. I'll have to look on my other site then.
Fuck, because it's the first 2. It's the second season I'm trying to finish. And
I can find it because I just got to use my TV Vault thing. It's just the TV Vault's slower, but I suppose usually that's where I find all the obscure TV stuff. So,
but in the meantime, we can just watch one of the U.S. ones, and
that's what. No, I'll probably have it. I'll probably have it downloaded by the time you get back from your thing.
oh, by the time I get back.
Yeah, probably so.
Okay. Well, if you can find season 1, that would be a good one to watch. Or
Okay, cool.
anyway, we can do something. I'm gonna go get ready for my appointment, and then I'll message you later.
All right. Bye. Say bye.
Bye, Juniper.
Bye bye.
It was good to see you. Enjoy your pea snack. Pea crisp.
Bye, Jack, and bye, Joe. If you're still out there, hope you guys have a good day. Night.
Bye, viewers. Thank you for joining. If you want to watch Survivor with us, just come on Discord in about an hour, about 2 hours. Okay. Bye. All right, let me find the music.